So good morning to everybody, and thank you to attend our webinar on the fiscal reform concerning the VAT importation in France. I am Matilde Gilardi, Senior VAT Consultant in the expert team, and I have the pleasure to introduce you my colleague Pascal André.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Pascal, who is the Senior Project Manager in the expert team as well. Today, we want to focus with a very specific point, so the fiscal reform on the VAT importation in France. And this is why our session will not be so long, but we will have 10 minutes time at the end to collect some questions and to answer to your doubt. And our colleague Karim Freget, who is Senior Account Manager in the Customer Care team. She's the supporters and she's collecting your question on the chat. So please write your question, and then we will have 10 minutes time to answer all of this. What about the continent? At first, we will do a brief overview on the importation. So what is an importation from a fiscal point of view? We will remind briefly the current regime and give you some example. Then we will pass to the fiscal reform. So in practice, what will change in 2022? Some practical example again. Then we will focus on some specific cases and impact from non-established companies. For sure, we have some impacts, some consequence in VAT compliance. So we will focus on the new method of filing a VAT return concerning importation in France. Then briefly explain on penalties and our 10 minutes time of question and answer. So Pascal, please give us a brief overview on what is an importation now.
Thank you, Mathilde. We just want to just for the record, to understand what we are talking about. We know that majority of the attendees of this session are already familiar with this transaction, but just for the framework, the importation of good, what is it? It's a transaction that concerns the entry of the goods in France that are coming from a third country. So the origin of the goods is located outside the European Union. The goods are custom clear in France and released for consumption. That means that goods are dedicated to be consumed in France and not in another country. At the time the goods are custom clear, the transaction is taxable. So it means that there is VAT that's raised on this transaction. So import VAT is due to the custom authorities. And in order to import goods in France, the importer is required to hold an ARI number for the record. An ARI number is a registration number provided by the customs authorities, and it is valid in all the European Union, and it allows you to import the goods everywhere in the European Union and to export goods from the European Union too.
Just a brief remember that after Brexit, also Great Britain is considered as third country, and we have, for example, also Norway, which is considered a third country. So this is a very important point. As Pascal told, in the current situation, the tax point is the custom clearance. So the VAT on importation is paid at the moment of the custom clearance, and the responsible of the payment of both VAT and custom duty is the importer. The importer should be mentioned in the import document, as you know. So it means in practical that it is mentioned in box 8 or in box 34. Briefly remind that box 8 is the importer liable for custom purpose. 44 is the importer liable for VAT purpose. So the rules now is that the VAT is paid at the moment of custom clearance to the custom authority. Then you have a sort of exception. So the company, the importer, can ask to the custom authority a special authorization in order to self-assess the import VAT on their French tax return. So now this is not the general rule, I repeat this, and it is the object of a formal request addressed to the custom authority. Preconditions are required, and the custom authority can deny this authorization to self-assess VAT. So Pascal, some practical example maybe to give a practical overview on this.
Yeah, this is the general rule that is applicable until the end of December of this current year. So, for example, the import is made in November the 15th, and at the moment the goods are custom clear, the import VAT and the duties eventually are paid to the custom authorities. This VAT paid to the custom authorities is recoverable if the importer is a taxable person. This VAT can be claimed via the VAT return submitted from the 24th of December, covering the tax period of November, and also authorization to recover the VAT in France is 2 years plus the current year. So this VAT is deductible until 2023. It can be written in the recovering box of the VAT return. If the importer opted for the self-assessment and meets the requirement that Matilde explained you previously, the import is not the import VAT, sorry, is not paid at the time of the custom clearance in November, but self-assessed in the VAT return, and that is changing the things because there is a VAT liability, and the VAT is due in December for the tax period of November. So the collection of the VAT is mandatory in the VAT return of December. So there's a risk associated to the self-assessment because in the self-assessment, the taxable person has to declare the collection of the VAT, and it is mandatory to do it at the correct period.
Remind that you can, actually the company can self-assess only after the specific authorization given by the custom authority. What will change in 2022? Basically, the exception will be the general rules. So it means that if the fiscal reform on VAT, on treatment of importation of goods in France, established that all company will self-assess the VAT on the French VAT return, starting from January 2022. So this is the first point. So we will not have a precondition to meet. This rule will be generalized, and then we have a transfer of jurisdiction between the custom authority and the fiscal authority. Why? Because basically the custom clearance will be not the point, the tax point, the moment to pay the VAT anymore. So at the moment of importation, the company will pay custom duty, so this will not change. But concerning VAT, the jurisdiction will be on the fiscal authority because the VAT will be self-assessed in the VAT tax return, in the French VAT tax return. We will see after that the VAT return will be simplified for the importation boxes, but the only prerequisite will be to have a VAT number in France. So some practical example, Pascal, on this update on this fiscal reform.
Yeah, we just wanted to update the previous scheme from the upcoming regime. So for you take the example of an import made the 15th of January 2022. Import is not paid at the time of the entry of the goods because of the self-assessment that is mandatory. So the import VAT is declared in the January VAT return, means in February, but the VAT return will be pre-filled. Customs authorities will release a listing that will be available the 14th of the next period. It is resume of all the import made on the last period, and the VAT return will be pre-filled with this information. So the taxpayer need to check and to control the figures that will be mentioned in the VAT return, and to amend it if some information are missing, some data are missing, and the taxpayer must control that the information is exhaustive and all the import VAT is included in the pre-filled VAT return. If it is not the case, the taxpayer can amend the boxes in the VAT return by the 24th of the next month. That is the deadline to submit the VAT return. We insist on the fact that the tax period is the month where the SED, the single administrative document, that is the import document from issued by the custom authorities, is available, and with the correct status in French, we need an SED with the BAE, the bon à enlever. It means that the SED is valid and the import VAT can be self-assessed.
Thank you, Pascal. And I want to insist again also on the importance of the information included in the import documents. This is a very important point because this information will be the base for your pre-filled in French VAT return. So once again, we always are repeating this, that import and export document are very important. But once again, for this reform, the import document will be the focus point. We will present you some specific cases. So, for example, what about some specific kind of goods like alcohol, tobacco, and all products, Pascal? This new regime will be applicable or not?
Yeah, this is a mandatory and general regime applicable to all products that are custom cleared in France. Tobacco and oil products will follow the same regime, and the import VAT will be self-assessed. There are some new boxes created by the tax authorities in order to separate the oil products, just to identify clearly the import VAT on these sensitive cases. But the general regime is applicable to all kinds of goods.
And Pascal, if I'm not mistaken, for this product, the information will be not pre-refilled.
Exactly.
Right?
Only
exactly,
on
yes.
you're totally right. So this information must be collected from the custom authorities in order to fill in the VAT return the next period.
So focus on this. Check if you are importing oil products, you have to fill yourself the information on the VAT return. And what about samples? Are they included or not in the scope of the regime?
Yeah, as you already know, samples always bear a custom value. So the samples will be impacted also by the new regime, and VAT must be self-assessed for any samples that are custom clear to be consumed in France.
Concerning warehouse, we know that probably this regime will not operating.
Yeah, customs warehouse is a specific regime. Goods are not released for consumption. They're only released for free circulation. So goods that are held in customs warehouse are not covered by the current regime. Are goods as the goods are not considered as consumed in France.
Exactly, as you told in the beginning, this regime will apply only for importation of goods released for consumption.
If a taxpayer is making an import in France and the goods are delivered, for example, in Spain or in another EU country like Italy or Belgium, and the goods are clear under the specific regime 42,
42,
where,
exactly.
where the import is exempted from import VAT because the importation is followed by a European Union delivery. This is also a specific case where the VAT is not self-assessed as the goods are consumed in another EU country.
Exactly. Thank you, Pascal, for this specificity. So, will the non-established company concerned by this fiscal reform?
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, sure. We know that there are a lot of attendees to this webinar that are non-established companies, and we would like to insist on the fact that non-established are in the scope at the moment that a taxpayer holds a valid VAT registration number. The new regime will be applicable, and import VAT will be mandatory, self-assessed.
And here we have a critical point, because we told that this regime will be the general rule. We told that the preconditions are not required anymore, but for sure, in order to self-assess VAT on your French VAT return, you need a VAT registration in France. If you don't have any other taxable operation, and now you don't have a VAT registration in France, what will the point, Pascal?
Well, actually, you will need to be VAT registered in France in order to self-assess the VAT, even if you don't have other taxable transaction that would not require a VAT registration number. So in any case, if you import goods in France, you will need a VAT registration number in France. Okay,
and
we can move on to the next one.
This is maybe the most important impact of the fiscal reform. And what about the boxes, the prefilled boxes in the new VAT return, Pascal?
Yeah, you have on the slide 10 the future VAT return that will be in force from the period of January 2022, and there are new boxes in this VAT return. Some of them are dedicated to the declaration of the import VAT. Some of them will be pre-filled. So it means that the custom authorities will communicate this information to the tax authorities, and the tax authorities will pre-fill these boxes with the information collected. But these pre-filled boxes can be modified, can be amended.
Yes.
So the taxpayer needs to control these boxes with the document he gathered from the customs clearance and the custom importation he made the previous months. There are also specific boxes we told you previously for oil products, for example, that are requested to be fulfilled by the taxpayer. This will not be pre-filled boxes. And what is also new is the declaration of importation that are not taxable in France. For example, we take previously the example of the regime 42, where
Yes.
the importation is made without VAT because the goods are delivered to another EU country. The amount of the goods imported in France and released for free circulation must be included in the new boxes that the tax administration created specifically. All right, there is some anticipation, some work to do to check if the ERP also are compliant and include this new information to declare the import transaction correctly.
And if you are not declaring correctly, for sure you will have penalties. But the difference, yeah, this is for sure. But the difference will be that the penalties will be jurisdiction of the tax administration. So the tax administration is competent to collect the VAT on import, and then is the under declaration will be subject to a penalty of 5% of the amount of VAT that should be declared. So there are no custom penalties anymore, but there are fiscal penalties, 5%. I think that we give you a complete overview of this reform. I guess that Karine is already collecting the question, and we can now start our question time. Maybe, Karine.
I can see a question that is a very practical question, asking that as the import is made by a customs broker, and
yes,
it can be difficult to obtain the document in time for the import to declare the import transaction in the VAT return. How can we manage this?
This is unfortunately this is the point with custom broker or custom representative in general for both import and export operation. So my suggestion is always to write specific clause in the contract with your broker, custom broker or custom representative, to give a deadline to the custom broker in order to give you the import document or export document as well, because it is rare that if you don't have this document, you cannot declare properly. So Pascal, I don't know what is your opinion here, but
yeah, I agree.
I don't see any other solution.
Yeah, but there's also the possibility to amend the VAT return
After, yes.
we will see afterward, but it's not the good solution. Actually, exactly. It is important to anticipate the transaction with all the custom brokers, and we know it is difficult if yes. You work with many custom brokers, or if you hold different subsidiaries that are importing goods, and the VAT return is centralized in one hand, and it can be difficult, but actually this is how it works now, and we need to anticipate this information and this transaction. And even if the boxes are pre-filled by the 14th of the following month, you still have until the 24th to change the information. So maybe if you don't have the import documentation in your hand, you can work with your custom broker in order to receive at least a list of the transaction in order to check
to have the amount,
the pre-filled boxes and to correct them eventually.
Yes, because 24 is still a short deadline. So yes, anticipate like this at least, or ideally to write some clause in the contract in order to have this document within the deadline.
We have also a question on the value that is included in the customs SAD. What is the risk on the custom value if it is incorrect? Who is responsible? Who is liable for the VAT if there is a mistake on the self-assessment because of a incorrect value on the customs documents?
For sure, the importer of goods, so the company who is declaring the importation. As I told during the presentation, we have two boxes which refer to the importer in the importer document. So we have box 8. This is the importer for custom purpose. So he's the entity liable for all custom aspects. And then you have the box 44. In box 44, you refer to the imported liable for VAT purpose. So the entity, if it is the same, we have no problem. But if it is different, the box 44 is the focus box concerning the liability for VAT.
It is important to make the difference between the custom liability and the VAT liability. Box 8 is the one who is responsible from a custom point of view, and box 44 is the one who can recover the VAT from the tax point of view. So it is quite different. That it is important to carefully complete the ACD to allow the taxpayer to recover the VAT. Custom
duty are not disappearing. So the fiscal reform, the only scope of this fiscal reform is to self-assess VAT. So the fiscal reform concerns the liability on VAT on importation, but custom duty remains. So the importer for custom purpose, so the importer state in box 8 will continue to be liable for custom duty and other claim for custom responsibility. And then the importer in the box 44 will be responsible for VAT.
I have also an interesting question, Matilde.
Yes.
Does it mean that from 2022, the French tax office will no longer rejecting the French VAT registration application for companies
we will wait for this
import goods?
Pascal, we are waiting for this question. You are totally correct, because unfortunately the current situation shows us that the French tax administration usually rejects VAT registration for importation. So for self-assessed
self-assessment.
Exactly, for self-assessment of the VAT on importation in the French VAT return. So we have some guideline, but the point is not specific answered. So we send a letter to the tax authority, a formal letter, and we are waiting for an official answer. But we guess that yes, the tax authority will not reject this demand, this request anymore, because if the self-assessment will be the general rules and the company needs a VAT registration to self-assess the VAT in their French VAT return, it makes sense that this type of VAT registration will be accepted. But we are waiting for official answer, official letter.
Maybe we can have a very practical webinar in 2 months or 3 months to check how it works and what are the feedbacks from taxpayer, from customs and tax authorities. It's also interesting.
For sure, once we have the feedback, we will give you all detail. We will do a communication by email, a communication on our LinkedIn page, and maybe why not another practical webinar. But this is effectively this is a critical point.
I have another question asking that if companies that is currently submitting a VAT refund claim under the 13th directive, for example, for import VAT, will be required to be VAT registered in France from the 1st of January. That's how we understand the new regime. To import the goods in France, you will need a VAT registration number in France because there is a mandatory self-assessment of the import VAT. So this regime obliges the taxpayer to hold a French valid VAT number.
Yes, basically now you can choose. You can choose between pay VAT at the moment of the custom clearance, or try to have the authorization to self-assess in your French VAT return. Starting from 2022, you have no choice, basically. We understand that the fiscal reform is mandatory, so you have no choice. You have to self-assess. And to self-assess, you have to be VAT registered in France.
Another question asking that if companies will need to start the process to obtain a French VAT number. The answer is yes, and maybe it's a little bit late because there is a lot of files and a lot of delay now from the tax administration to release the French VAT number, and it takes now maybe between 2-3 months to obtain the French VAT number. Yes, you need to anticipate and start the process as soon as possible to obtain a French VAT number if you intend to import goods in France and you are not VAT registered yet.
At the moment, we cannot say that there will be a transition period. So it is better to start quickly.
Before we end this webinar, to remind you of the upcoming reform on the intrastat. Also, just keep in mind that there are some changes due to the fact that the information communicated previously in the French intrastat had both purpose. It has a purpose for the custom from a statistic point of view, and also from a fiscal point of view. It fulfills the obligation of the EC sales lists.
Exactly.
And from the 1st of January 2022, the transaction is split into two returns. So there will be an intrastat. They are changing the name, but it is more or less the same. Same information needs to be provided to the customs authorities, and then in a second time, you will need to complete an EC sales list for all the goods that are moving from France to another EU countries. This EC sales list will be pre-filled with the intrastat information, but you will need to check them and to add some information if you are making other transactions that are not included in the intrastat. So just keep in mind that also intrastat is changing in France, and do not hesitate to contact us to obtain more information and to have some relevant information on that.
Yes, so this is another topic, but it is effectively a very important topic as well.
Yeah, just a moment. I have other questions that are appearing.
Yes.
If the importer will not be French VAT registered at the time of importing the goods into France, does it mean that the French import VAT will be payable at the importation, or will the goods will not be custom cleared at all? Well, from our understanding, it seems that goods will not be stopped at the custom points. The goods will be custom clear, but the import VAT will be paid to the custom authorities, but with the risk that this VAT will not be recoverable.
Exactly.
Because the absence of a French VAT number will be assimilated, treated as the importation by a non-taxable person.
Exactly. So at the moment, we are not sure that VAT will be recoverable. So basically, you will continue to import, but the risk is to lose your VAT. So pay VAT on importation and custom clearance, and then never recover back.
Yeah, we hope that there will be a tolerance,
some coordination
from the customs and tax authorities, but at that time we don't have the full answer yet.
No. So it is another point that we are checking with the French fiscal authority. But for now, keep in mind that you must have a VAT registration on 1st January 2022.
All right, no more
questions.
No more question? No.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much to all. And if you have other questions, you can contact us by our email address, as told by Pascal. And we will keep you in touch once we have some feedback on the last point. Pascal?
Yeah, thank you all to attend this webinar. You will receive a link if you want to replay the webinar. We will send you a link to see the video again. We will also send you the PowerPoint, the current support of this presentation, so you can also check it by yourself later. And of course, we remain at your disposal for any question. And you will also receive the survey that is automatically generated by our system for this webinar, and we will thank you in advance for your feedback.
Yes, and please keep in mind to check our LinkedIn page, TEVEA International, and our YouTube channel, because we are giving some fiscal updates on VAT, on custom, and we are also preparing some very short videos on our YouTube channel. So please keep in mind to check this. Have a nice day. Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.